Hi, I'm Corey Driver, and this is Moving Forward. So this week we are in Isaiah 65 and Luke 8, and we're talking about God showing up. There was an old hymn that we used to sing in the Methodist congregations that I grew up in called My Jesus, I Love Thee. Each stanza ends with the line, if ever I love thee, my Jesus, 'tis now. Somewhere along the line, I have misremembered that actual lyric. And I have always remembered it. And in fact, I looked it up in preparing for this. And I was surprised at the original lyric because I've always remembered it as, if ever I needed you, Jesus, 'tis now. That line and the idea that God has known what I have needed before I've even asked, coming from Matthew 6:8, has been a real reassurance over the years. The lectionary passages this week talk about God knowing what we need and showing up even before we know to ask. In the introduction to Isaiah 65 for this week, God talks about showing up for people who definitely did not know to ask. God was found by those who did not seek the Lord, and God announced divine presence to a people who did not call on the divine name. God opened God's hands to a people who turned away. From the Garden of Eden to Noah's Ark, to Abraham's tent, to Hagar's sojourn, to Moses' flock, to Samaria's idolatry, to Jerusalem's injustice, to the exiles' disappointments, to the disciples' confusion, to Paul's wrath, God shows up, uninvited, but still ready to claim, love, heal, equip, and activate for mission. Here in Isaiah, God speaks to returned exiles, probably, mixing with the people who weren't even significant enough for Babylon to exile in the first place. Pathetic, conquered Jerusalem is unwalled and laid waste. The temple is in ruin. Surrounding peoples like Samaritans, Ammonites, Arabs, Philistines are all trying to prevent Jerusalem from being reestablished, looking in Nehemiah 2 and 4. As the book of Isaiah described the returning Jews, they're not especially deserving of help. They ate unkosher food, offered forbidden worship, and falsely boasted of holiness they did not possess at the time. God did not help Zerubbabel, Ezra, and Nehemiah to reestablish the city and temple and peoplehood because they deserved it. God helped reestablish the temple and the city and peoplehood because of God's grace. The scroll of Isaiah goes on to say that those who are deeply committed to continued sin in the light of God's grace will face punishment. But for everyone else who accepts God's grace and responds accordingly, they will be invited to reside on God's holy hill. And then, before anyone even thinks to ask for peace, God will insist that no one of any ethnicity or affiliation will try to dispossess anyone else. It's Isaiah 65, 24 through 25. God answers prayers before they are even prayed. Looking ahead hundreds of years, Jesus comes to a land where he had not been sought or welcomed. The confrontation with the man who was possessed is not an answer to anybody's prayers. As the story is told, gradually we learn background information. The man is habitually naked and lives in the graveyard. The man was chained and guarded, but the demon and demons inside of him wanted to escape and frequently did. And the man was gotten and brought back and rechained up in the graveyard. The people of the surrounding areas were accustomed to the man's condition and indeed insisted that he be guarded and returned to the spot when he escaped. It is not the destruction of the pigs. It is not the freeing of the man that scares the people. It is him sitting clothed in his right mind quietly. That's what terrifies the people. And why should this be the case? The man is functioning as a demon trap for the townspeople. He's chained up and kept in the graveyard as a sort of human dream catcher or magic bowl, right? There's danger of spiritual possession. And so the chaining of the man in the graveyard functions as essentially a demon trap. All the demons, the legion of unclean spirits in the man, could have possessed town members, potentially, but the man is kept there as a trap for the evil spirits so that the townspeople will not be possessed. He is kept near enough to the town to be an easy alternative for any malicious spirits, but far enough from the town that the people can really ignore his condition. They know he's there and they need him there. And that's why he is guarded and chained up there, even when he's trying to escape. This man is being sacrificed for the good of the community. And Luke's gospel initially buries the headline, but in verse 29, we see that as soon as Jesus landed, he drives out the demons. A brief conversation ensues where the demons ask that they be allowed to pick their next victims. Jesus agrees. The demons go into pigs. The pigs rush into the waters and they are drowned. This is terrible news for pigs, swineherds, and people who drink the local water. But it's great news for the man who had been sacrificed to be a human demon trap. And that is the focus of the passage. This man has endured a sort of double enslavement. He has been possessed by a legion of demons, and he has been possessed by the townspeople who were using him very cynically to be an easy target for demons so that they would not be harmed. Jesus frees the man from both. No wonder the townspeople are terrified when they see the man in his right mind, clothed and seated. Their spiritual protection is gone. Where is it? Jesus has come to announce the kingdom of heaven and to free people from the possessions that they have endured, whether spiritual or social. Their spiritual protection's at hand. Jesus tells the man to tell the people how much God had done for him, so that they would know how much God is willing to do for them as well, even before they ask. The moral of the story is God is not surprised by our needs. When neighbors are abusive, when society gets together to disappear or arrest people in order to make them feel safer, God notices. God shows up to make things right before we even ask. So, I'm okay with misremembering a lyric. If ever I needed you, Jesus, 'tis now. And I think that's true. And I know God already knows. Thanks be to God. Amen.